Hi everyone. We are nearly halfway through this course, if you can believe it. We are in midweek of week 3 out of 6 weeks, so we're getting close. And thought it would be good to just look back a little bit and look ahead a little bit and provide some information that might be helpful as you engage with the current module. So I will try to make this as brief as possible, but there is kind of a lot to say. First, I wanted to let you know that your grades are posted on the partner research. So if you go into my grades, you'll find that there are grades there. Through some conversations I had with you all, people had questions about the point person and the community partner. So I'll just quickly name that the community partner is meant to be your organization that you're working with, and the point person is the individual who can help you to leverage your project. So sometimes it takes a person who's in a position of power who can actually help you make it happen and bring it to life. So the idea was that with this first assignment, you would find out some more information about your partner, learn some new things, and then also identify who is the individual within the organization who can help you bring your project to life, and apply the learning of a course that is, because of its online nature, largely theoretical. So how can we bring all of the insights from this course into practice through relationship and through these community partner connections? So just wanted to let you know there's feedback there, and you'll find feedback in the body of your paper, comments embedded in the rubric, as well as some general comments associated with your grade. So spend some time in my grades and check that out. That feedback also will probably help inform the next phases of this project. Another thing I wanted to mention is citations. So you've probably noticed that sorry, my chair's wobbly. In a couple of places in the course, I've mentioned the importance of citations, and just want to name that this is something I find to be really important. Throughout time, people have systematically utilized the wisdom of others in ways that are not equitable, benefiting from other people's wisdom and knowledge. And in this course, I hope that we can interrupt that by citations. So what citations do is they name, acknowledge, and recognize the sources of our information. So if you're writing in the dialogue forum, it's important that you acknowledge and name where does the wisdom come from that you're pointing to in your work. And in the partner research, because this is a formal paper, a research paper, the idea was that you would formally cite your sources using APA or MLA. There's a couple places in the course where you are, where it's essential that you do these formal citations. So the first is the partner research project, which you already submitted. The second is your literature review, which is coming up, and I'll talk about in a couple places in this little conversation. And then the third is your final project. So in those places, you need to be using MLA or APA citations. And just as a little hint, tip, the OWL Purdue Online Writing Lab, which is owl.english.purdue.edu. Whoops, right here. The OWL Purdue Writing Lab has both APA and MLA resources. It tells you how to do in-text citations. It also tells you how to do a reference list. So, oh, there we go. Now it's working. So in-text citations and reference lists. My Wi-Fi is moving slowly because I'm outside. So check out the OWL website, and the Bailey Howe UVM library also has resources on citations, so you can use those if you need some citation support. But just keep in mind that recognizing the sources of wisdom is a way that we can participate in more equitable structures all around. So honoring rather than stealing or appropriating other people's knowledge, wisdom, insights, reflections. Make sure that you name, where does this come from? Who said this first? And if you're doing it informally in the dialogue form, you can simply say, I read so-and-so's work, XYZ title, this great insight that sparked a new thought for me. And so you can do it just casually in the body of your writing, You can also put it in parentheses and kind of have an informal in-text citation in the dialogue form. But in these papers that you're submitting, it's important that you do formal citations. A few other quick notes. The grades for the journal and SitSpot will be posted at the end of the course. So I'm reading and responding week by week, but you'll notice that you're not receiving grades for those just yet. Those will come at the end. I am grading on the dialogue. So you can look for those in the grade center or my grades. And I'm trying to put most of my comments and reflections right into the dialogue forum. So you might not see a whole lot of feedback in the grades for dialogue, but check, because I am leaving many of you at least brief comments just to acknowledge the work that you're doing. I wanted to mention the Pinterest assignment. Hopefully that's a fun and creative project and something a little bit different for a class. It was an experiment I tried and really liked and thought it was a good way to bust out of writing a standard paper or just recording your reflection. However, because it's non-linear and doesn't have to necessarily be super organized, I noticed in the past that with this assignment sometimes there can be kind of gaps or redundancies, and so I've added just a really brief one-page double-spaced synthesis where the goal is for you to just recap on some of the key themes. And as you're doing that synthesis, if you notice gaps and redundancies, that's an opportunity for you to correct those in your Pinterest board before you submit them. So make sure you give yourself enough time to put your board together, to write the synthesis, and submit all of that this week by Friday. And have fun with it. I hope it's fun. I look forward to a creative teaching philosophy from each of you. The lit review also is coming up, and I'll actually go and talk about that in a minute. Separately, I'll look at the website with you. But again, that's a place where you're being asked to do these formal citations, MLA or APA. And another note related to kind of this overview on grades and assignments is that next week, Module D is a little bit heftier on the resources. So for Module C, I did everything within my power to pare down and simplify so you'd have a little bit of spaciousness this week and you could really be sitting with the resources and not having to like cram so much into a short time. However, next week, it is, there's a lot, it's a dense topic with a few sort of sub-threads, so we're going to be digging into a lot more resources, so I want you to plan your time accordingly, and that's part of why I thought it would be important to just sort of highlight the lit review now, because you can get started on it now. I'm sure as you were going through the partner research project, you're reviewing the feedback on there. Hopefully that exercise and the feedback will be sparking new ideas for the next round of the project, which is this literature review. So think about how you want to plan and structure your time so that you can get things done, because there's a lot in a short time, which I say over and over again, sorry. So did my best to make this week a little bit lighter, and next week will be a little bit heavier, so plan ahead. It's a bigger assignment and more resources to review. The dialogue forum has been so much fun, and you also probably saw my note. I sent an announcement yesterday just kind of encouraging you to do more than the minimum. I noticed that there's a lot of questions that are being unresolved, and some folks are not stewarding your threads, so be sure that you're doing that. The 4-post minimum is a minimum of posts that you initiate, and it's also asked that you tend to everything you initiate. So circle back to the questions you're asking other students, circle back to your own initial threads and respond. Another thing I was noticing in the dialogue forum were a couple of comments from folks who are saying like, wow, this is something new that I never really thought of before. And it reminded me of a story that I wanted to share, which is about ferns. And you can see an ostrich fern photo here. Probably about 10 years ago, I was invited by a friend to go on a field walk. And before the field walk started, my friend said, it's a field walk about ferns. And I was wondering if you wanted to take a pre-field walk, to prep for the field walk, and we could just go find all the different ferns and make sure that we know what each one is before taking a bunch of people who have signed up for this walk to have a guided field walk. And sure enough, I had never really looked at ferns before. I'm not sure that I had ever really noticed them before this particular day. And the only reason I went is because it was a really good friend who was a lot of fun. And I thought, oh, this would be really cool. Let's do it. So I went on the pre-walk. And on this pre-walk, we're noticing, oh, look, it's a Christmas fern. And then opening up the field guide and saying, oh, look at the shape of the fronds and how they're shaped like little socks that kind of look like Christmas stockings. And wow, isn't that a rich, deep green that's sort of like that holiday green color? And then the next one we come upon, wow, it's a sensitive fern. And sensitive ferns are that round lobed shape, and they're really sensitive to weather. And isn't it interesting that that's what they're called? And before that walk, I'm not sure, like I said, I had ever even noticed a fern before. And since that walk, not only did I notice the ferns everywhere I go now, from like henceforth ever since, but I also noticed many details about them. And it's something that I can't sort of shake from my radar. And I share that story with you because I thought perhaps some of the insights and reflections that are coming up for you in this course might have that similar effect as the fern, where suddenly you start to see them everywhere as you reflect on past learning experiences, as you find yourself in new learning contexts. That now you're suddenly thinking about, wow, how is this instructor fostering learning? Or wow, how is this space really thinking about equity and inclusion and learning? So as that's all unfolding for you, I just thought it might be interesting to invite you to consider this fern and remember that these things that happen in Module A and Module B might also be weaving their way, and should be hopefully weaving their way, into Module E and F, and threading all the way through the course. So feel free to keep making those connections in the journal, weaving them into the dialogue, but remembering to keep building so that you're adding new material as well. But just thought it was something worth naming. The other thing I noticed is that there's a tendency, probably a pretty natural tendency among us, and I use the us on purpose, to jump to problem solving. I know, for example, in the Rubenstein School, this is even a learning outcome that we have for the school. Like, we want to support students to be awesome problem solvers. And one of the pitfalls with problem solving is that we can often jump to solving problems before we've examined them super thoroughly. And what that means is you might actually end up solving for a symptom of the problem instead of solving the problem itself. So I just wanted to point to that, which I know I did in the dialogue forum, but in case you didn't read that, an invitation to not solve problems. We can dwell in the problems a little bit more deeply, to examine them thoroughly before having to come to solutions, and hopefully our inquiry practice and our art of questioning will help us not necessarily to solve problems immediately, but to really understand the problems and the roots of them. So let's hold that. There's nothing wrong with problem solving. At the same time, I just want to encourage you to not have to rush into it and to really dwell in the problems. So also an invitation to name that in the dialogue form if you find yourself going to the problem solving space, or curious if that's the right place to go. You can be asking those questions. So just wanted to highlight that. As for the lit review assignment, I'm going to go to Blackboard. So I'm in the assignments and schedule. In the folder that is, oh no, I'm not. Assignments and schedule. Course projects and paper. Lit review assignment. So here you'll find the assignment objectives, the assignment description, the assignment content, and some more details. So first you'll see that this is a little bit longer than the previous assignment that was due on Friday. It asks you to identify additional resources. These should be different than the resources that you wrote about. I know some of you, a couple of you at least, created lists of resources you wanted to come back to. If you wrote about the resource, I encourage you to go beyond that. So it could be one of the ones you listed but didn't really dive into. And you're going to do an academic review. However, when you do an academic review, It's usually very comprehensive and sort of super robust. And in this class, because we only have 6 weeks and we're moving so swiftly, we're not going to be able to do a very comprehensive one. So the ask is that you examine important topics, areas of inconsistency, connections. You're critically evaluating and you're asking new questions, doing that through the literature that you can find that's related to your topic. And let me know if you have questions about these. But hopefully there's enough information here about lit reviews. And then there's also Bailey Howe has information about how to write a lit review. So I trust that you are able to exercise your information literacy skills. You're able to navigate the Bailey Howe website. I will also say this is an upper level course that has prerequisites. So I just am assuming that these are some skills that you all have. And if you feel like you need additional support, let me know. I'm definitely here for you. So lit review. And the big piece is it's due Friday the 16th, which is a week from Friday, and you have a full week next week of resources. So I encourage you, again, I'll say it again, get started now. Don't wait. Dig into this assignment and get ahead. And that way you can also let me know if you have questions. You can send me an email. You can set up a time to have a phone conversation, and you can also reach me on the app Voxer, which has been working really well given the time difference. All right, lastly, extra credit. After doing the last round of grades, I just thought it might be helpful to offer an extra credit assignment. So in Blackboard, if you go to Turn in Assignments and you scroll down, you'll find a 5-point extra credit project. So each assignment in the course adds up to a cumulative 100 points, also 100% in the class. And I think actually I may have rounded up in one place, so we might even be a little bit over, and that was intentional in order for folks to be really successful, because I want you to be successful. I know you're working hard. And I did think that maybe an extra credit would be helpful. So the assignment is for you to interview an environmental educator, and the encouragement is to reach beyond your network. So for those of you who already have summer jobs or full-time, long-term positions in organizations that are doing environmental education, you need to branch out for this assignment anyway. So the invitation is for you to talk to someone who's not your community partner, who's not someone that is a current colleague, but someone else that's a little bit beyond your network. So it can be someone in the course. So you can reach out to another student, but the idea, and I can also give you some tips if you're interested, but I encourage you to find an organization that looks appealing to you, either from the resources in the class or from your own community, and connect with that person. If you're feeling like, oh, that's impossible, reach out to a student in the class and learn from somebody else who's in the class. And there's some questions here, and the artifact that you're going to submit as a result of this is you're going to do the interview, do a reflection, however you reflect best, and then record, after you've synthesized some of those thoughts, a brief video, no more than 10 minutes, to provide an overview. So that's the scoop. That's my update and check-in for you all. If you have any other questions, contact me. I'm happy to talk with you. And otherwise, I'm excited. Today's Wednesday, so I'll be all over the dialogue forum today and throughout the rest of the week. So looking forward to connecting with you online, and I hope you have a good rest of the week.